This year isn't about a trophy. This year isn't about a placing. This year is about proving to people that what they saw in 2022 was only a fraction of what I can be. 2024 is about the year of redemption.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. In today's video, I thought that I would do a little bit of a sit-down video just covering the season, covering the shows that I did, and then covering a little bit about kind of what my plans are moving forward in bodybuilding as a whole, moving into the off season and everything like that. So first of all, diving into things, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you who has been supporting the journey up to this point. This is going to be episode 21 of the Redemption series. This is going to be the last and final episode of this series, and honestly, it just went better than I could have even expected. I really enjoyed making this series over the last 22 weeks of this prep, and it was just really great to see the support. So thank you very, very much to each and every single one of you who has been tuning in every week to go ahead and watch the videos. So thank you very much for that. But going ahead and just kind of recapping the season, we'll go ahead and start with that. So back in June, on June 1st, we did the first show, which was the Alberta Open in Calgary, Alberta. Now, this was my first time doing this show. In 2022, I did the TNT Muscle Showdown as well as the Alberta Naturals. So the people that put on the Alberta Naturals, Paramount Performance, is the same people that put on the Alberta Open here in May. So I decided that it worked really good for my timeline and that it was something that I wanted to do this year. So I ended up going and competing in the Alberta Open on June 1st. Now, it was a little bit nerve-wracking going into this show because this had been my first time getting back on stage after pretty much like 18-20 months, I guess it would have been. It was July of 2022 that I had last competed, so I definitely think that there were some nerves there with there being a big gap between me being on stage and the last time that I was on stage. I think that in combination with, if you guys would have watched the show day video, you saw that there were some issues with the tan. For some reason, the tan just did not want to adhere to my skin very well. It ended up leaving me very patchy. I definitely was not as dark as a lot of the guys that were on stage with me, and it kind of just ended up making for a little bit of a weird look. So that was something that was very stressful that I was dealing with the entire weekend, obviously. Other than that, though, it is a very well run and organized show. It was just the fact that kind of the tan was not working great that did make it a little bit nerve-wracking for me and did make it a little bit anxiety-inducing. But going into the show, I knew that this was going to be my last opportunity to compete as a junior because the cutoff for the junior class is 23 years old, and I literally turned 24 3 days after that show. So I turned 24 on June 4th, and the Alberta Open was on June 1st, so I knew that I could kind of slide in there to do juniors. So I was really excited to do juniors for the last time, as well as doing my open class. But unfortunately, when I went to go get on stage, I was the only person that was in the junior class, which I definitely thought was a little bit weird because when I did compete in 2022, there was a lot of guys in the junior class. So I did think it was a little bit weird that there wasn't that many at this show, or I guess there wasn't any at all for classic physique. Because the thing when it comes to the age categories such as junior is that it doesn't matter what height you are, they just blend everybody together based on their age. So I really thought that there would be more guys doing that junior class in classic physique, but it just ended up being me, which was a little bit unfortunate. You know, some people that I've talked to obviously are like, well, yeah, it's an automatic first place then. And when you're a competitor and when you have that competitive spirit, it really isn't about that to you. You still want to compete against somebody. You still want to have some sort of competition. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but ended up taking first place, obviously, in the junior category. Then moving into my open category, I was in open class C because I am right at about 6 feet tall, so I kind of slip in right there into open class C. And first impressions, obviously, going out on stage was that I was just out muscled by everybody, but at the end of the day, I did know going into that show that I am a natural competitor and I was going up against enhanced competitors. Obviously, the Alberta Open, the TNT Muscle Showdown that I did, both shows that I did this season were untested shows, and I knew that going into that, and it was nothing that I was, upset about. It was nothing that I wasn't expecting. I knew that all of these guys were going to be on PEDs, and I knew that, I didn't have that advantage going up against them. So coming out for my open Class C in Calgary, I was immediately outsized. Obviously, I definitely felt like I held my own in some areas, especially when it comes to classic physique. Like, I personally feel that my conditioning was obviously way better than it was in 2022. There were definitely still some guys that were more conditioned than I was. I'm not saying that I was the most conditioned on stage, but I definitely felt that my conditioning was on par with some guys, and potentially better than some guys as well. I feel like my shape and my structure are very well suited to classic, and I think that that is something that isn't always taken into consideration when it comes to the judging criteria at an amateur level, and sometimes it's more so going to be, you know, just purely based off of size. But, you know, that is the game that we play, and at the end of the day, it does come down to the judge's final decision, and what happens with that is out of my hands. But after doing the Alberta Open in Calgary, we got home, and the one thing that I had kind of regretted about that entire weekend is that I didn't feel like I was very present. I felt like because of everything that was happening with the tan and kind of all the anxiety that I was having, the weekend just kind of blew by. And after putting in like 18 weeks of work leading into that show, you want to enjoy that moment because you put in a lot of time, effort, dedication, work for a very, very short amount of time. So kind of just letting the weekend blow by kind of sucked because it was like, I didn't feel like I was very present. I didn't feel like I had the time to enjoy the show because it was just so anxiety inducing, and I got to the point that dealing with all the tanning issues and everything that I really just kind of wanted the show to be done and over with, which isn't something that you really want to feel. So going into the second show, the TNT Muscle Showdown 4 weeks after the Alberta Open, my main goal going into that show was to, one, obviously improve the package that I brought to stage, because it is always what I'm trying to do. I'm always trying to bring an improved package to stage. So that was the first thing that I was trying to do. But the second thing that I was really focusing on going into that second show was really just being present, really taking the time to enjoy the weekend, really taking the time to enjoy it with my friends, with my family that came, making sure that I was taking lots of photos and just enjoying the process. So leading into that show, that's what I was mainly focused on. So going into the TNT Muscle Showdown here in Edmonton, Alberta, absolutely phenomenally run show. It's probably one of the most organized shows that I have ever done, down to the tanning times. You book in for a specific tanning time, the athletes meeting when you're on stage. Everything about it is very, very structured and organized. And if you know me, I'm a little bit of an OCD person and a little bit of a structured person, probably more than a little bit of a structured person. So that works really, really well for me, especially when you are trying to peak, when you are trying to carb load, when you're trying to do all these sorts of different things. It is very, very important that you are as regimented and structured going into the show as you can be. So I just definitely felt a lot more at ease going into this show because of the fact that it was so regimented and it was so structured. It made things a lot easier for me. As well, going into the TNT Muscle Showdown, I did feel like the carb load was a lot better. I did feel like I was a lot fuller. I think I was a little bit on the flatter side going into the Alberta Open because I was a little bit scared to push food, and I definitely was not scared to push food going into the TNT Muscle Showdown. I ended up doing 2 back-to-back days of, I think it was about 600 grams of carbs leading into the Alberta Open, so a total of 1,200 grams of carbs. But leading into the TNT Muscle Showdown, I ended up doing 1 day of 700 grams of carbs and then 1 day of 800 grams of carbs, so putting in a total of 1,500 grams of carbs over the course of those 2 days, which I definitely think yielded a lot better look for me. That, in combination with the tanning being a lot better, the tan really seemed to adhere to my skin a lot better at TNT, so that was something that was a stress that was taken off of my plate, which was absolutely fantastic to have that go well because that was such a big stressor in Calgary. Obviously, going into the TNT Muscle Showdown, I was no longer able to compete in juniors, so the only class I was able to do was my open class for classic, which again for me was open class C. But between some of the changes that I made to the peaking process as well as to my posing, my presentation, the tan, I really felt that I did hold my own at this show. Unfortunately, we did still end up placing last in the category because, again, at the end of the day, I just ended up getting outsized by these guys because the majority of them are probably going to be on some sort of PED, whereas I wasn't. But again, I knew that going into this. But when I do look at the photos from TNT compared to Alberta Open, I felt that I really held my own at TNT. I felt that I didn't get outsized by that much. I felt that I didn't look super out of place. I felt like obviously my posing and my presentation were probably one of the best up there. I definitely felt that, you know, kind of just my look really suits that classic look. So I know at this point the biggest thing that I need going into future competitions is just going to be size, and that's what I knew going into 2022, is that moving from 2022 coming into this year, is that I knew that I just needed to build more size, and I can say that I definitely did that between those years. So that is the goal moving into this next series of shows, is just going to be putting on more size. So I guess that brings us into what is next for me. I know that I am definitely not going to be competing in 2025. I know that, again, I do need to take the time to make the improvements that I want to make going into the next time that I step on stage, which is most likely going to be 2026. So having that additional time off is really going to benefit me to be able to put on that size again, to bring an even better package to the stage next time that I do compete. So just being fully transparent with you guys, this was probably going to be the determining year of whether I was going to stay natural or whether I was going to go down the enhanced route. Now, I knew going down the enhanced route, it was something that I have been thinking about for a long time. Obviously, it is something that just kind of comes with the territory when it comes to bodybuilding, and if I was going to go down this route, I wanted to make sure that I was going about it in the proper way. So about probably 3 or 4 days out from the TNT Muscle Showdown, I ended up running some blood work, which I am going to go ahead and cover in a future video here, which did kind of go ahead and let me know some things that I wanted to know before potentially going down that route. My goal ultimately is to become an IFBB pro one day. I absolutely love competing. It is something that I love to do. I absolutely love bodybuilding. I love the whole industry of it, and it is a huge passion of mine, and that is something that I would love to continue to pursue. And let's be honest, unless you are a genetic anomaly like Ronnie Coleman or Keon Pearson or someone like that, you are probably not going to be able to turn pro naturally, and that's something that I have known going into this. So unfortunately, that is just something that kind of does come with the territory when it does come to competing in bodybuilding at a high level. But the goal for right now, before diving into any of that, is making sure that I get my blood work back into a good place naturally. So right now I am just focused on recovery. I am just focused on regaining a little bit of body fat to go ahead and bring some of those health markers into a better spot. And then once I have gone ahead and done that, I will go ahead and run another round of blood work, see where I am at still naturally, and then go ahead and decide what I am going to do moving forward from there, and if I'm going to go ahead and move down the enhanced route or not to continue pursuing that goal of an IFBB pro card. I don't like to bullshit anybody. I like to keep things real, raw, and honest, and that is why I wanted to go ahead and kind of share that with you guys. And if I do decide to go down that path, it is definitely something that I will be documenting. It is definitely something that I will be sharing, because I think it is important to be open and transparent about those things. But guys, I'm gonna go ahead and leave that video there. Like I said, I will be doing a video in the future here covering what my blood work looked like at the beginning of prep compared to what it looked like at the end of prep 3 days out from the show. So we'll be doing a video on that, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But as always, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like on the video. I would greatly appreciate it. As well, make sure that you guys click that subscribe button if you're new around here, so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Other than that, I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.